Yes, we're in the show now.
Yay! Okay, well, welcome everybody to another Storytellers Happy Hour. I'm Lisa Kastner, and I am here with Teehee, and we may actually have not just one, not just two, but potentially three amazing people with us tonight. And if not, who cares? Because we always have a fabulous time. So,
Exactly.
for anybody who's watching and you're like, who the hell are you and what are you doing? So, we are the hosts of Storytellers Happy Hour from Running Wild and RIZE Presses. And what this means is it's supposed to be once a month, but this month we're doing it twice because we can. But tonight, what we are going to be doing is we will, well, actually, you know what? I don't know, Tiki, do you want to explain what we do?
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Yeah. So the storytelling happy hour is oh wait. Let me get my props together. We have an amazing deck of cards from the Moth. If you guys know the Moth storytelling thing is like a big deal. It's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And so they came out with a deck of cards that have different prompts about stories that you just tell. So we pulled one or two. I actually pulled some before the call. There's two, and they like I meant to pull one, but it was two, and they're both so similar. So I was like, this is great. So we have these prompts and we're gonna tell stories and that's it. And we're drinking.
Then we're drinking. So this is a gin and tonic in my Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe inspired glass.
I love
So
it.
see Andy Warhol, which like for real, this is like a thing, and it's actually so my husband, long ago and far away, he when he was in his like 20s, he actually worked for an art and like an art studio where they like sold all kinds of like really amazing artwork and stuff. And it got hit during 9/11, and they ended up having to close. But the owner said to him, "You can have whatever you want, like take whatever you want." So we have in our home all this amazing artwork and like sculptures. And but this had been in a pack of four, obviously, had been in the gift shop. But he was like, he literally got into like a full body, like with the aerator, whole 9 yards, like to like go through the semi-destroyed art studio and just picked everything that like was cool. And so we have tons of stuff like that. And then we have stuff because I used to work for Warner Media in the consumer product space. And a couple times a year, they're like, okay, we're just giving away all these, like, so because they would get sample stuff. So we have tons of like DC comics and like stuff from like the movies and all that all throughout our house. And yeah, oh my God, Teehee, like for real, the next time you come over, we should just like, yeah. So anyway, that's where this kind of stuff comes from because we're both dorks and we're both like, oh my God, I have to have that. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I just have to have it. Anyway.
I'm drinking Tecate because I live in Mexico and it was cold. I went to the store right before this because I prefer Pacifico. And I pulled out a 12 pack and it was not cold. They had just put it in the cooler. And then I was
Oh,
like, do I want to sit here for this happy hour drinking like room temperature Pacific? No, I don't. No, I don't. So I was like, okay, what's cold? What's cold? And it's Tecate. So tonight is
nice,
Tecate,
nice. Do
which
you
I
do
don't mind.
Modelo?
I do Modelo on occasion. Sometimes it's a little bit more expensive down here, which is a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like it's its own weird class of like it's domestic, but it's also just higher price. Tecate
Oh,
is dirt cheap.
oh
This
wow.
was like, let me try to do the exchange rate. This was like a 12 pack was like $6.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's fine. It's fine.
Now, the next time you are in LA, we are going to Los Amigos because Los Amigos, you know Los Amigos?
I think so.
So it's in Burbank, and they have a lunch special where you can get Modelo. It's like that's the and it's not canned. It's from the tap. Um yeah, and the food is freaking, they have an amazing like bean dip, and they make fresh guacamole. I mean, like super fresh, where you're just like, okay, I could live here. Just let me stay here forever. We're doing it. So,
All of this is music to my ears. Beer on tap, bean dip.
uh-huh.
I'm here. There's a place down here called Nacho Daddies,
Really?
which is a sports bar, and then upstairs it's a live music venue. My best friend Kevin performs there on the last Sunday of every month. So when you come down, Lisa, you got to come down and make sure you're here the last Sunday of the month
On
because
it.
he performs
I'm
with a
on
live band and it's amazing. But Nacho
it.
Daddies is also a restaurant, and the bean dip is the best bean dip I've ever had. It's
Really?
so good. It's so
Oh my
good.
God.
It's not overly spicy, but it's got a little bit of a kick to it. And like with the saltiness and the chips and everything.
Okay. No. All right. We are so there. And because we have to hear Kevin too. I mean, like,
Oh
duh.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, oh
Yeah.
my God. Yes. Yes. Yay. Oh, and by the way, guys, anyone who's watching, we're also going to be planning on doing a live Storytellers Happy Hour in February. And we just need to pick a bar, right?
Yes.
And there are some people we're going to recruit. They don't know it yet, but we're going to recruit them.
They're gonna be voluntold.
Exactly.
Hell yeah. Okay, so the prompts, let's share the prompts. Like I said, I pulled two on accident. I meant to pull one, but they're both kind of like similar. So the first one is adventure
Oh, cool.
as the prompt, but the other one is making waves, which I feel like are kind of the same.
Well, we could do both because I mean, you
Yeah.
could kind of interpret both, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm like, if you're going on an adventure, you are actually making waves. Like you're doing something you don't normally do. Like I'm like, they definitely feed into each other.
Yeah, totally. I can see that. I can totally see that. Now I'm like, oh my God. Now what do I say? Ah. Oh, okay. All right. I think I have one.
Okay.
All right. Do you have?
I have an adventure one. I don't know if I have a making waves one.
I have an adventure one. The making waves one, like I have more like. Actually, I'm making waves one. Yeah, and it's okay for me to talk about it because like it's from when I was a teenager, and you know what I mean, like versus like if you talk about something that you made waves with like yesterday, you could still heavily offend people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That
yeah.
actually helps me out a lot more because I was like, I had making waves ones, maybe, but are like probably not good to say because they're too recent.
Same. Yes. That's why I was like, okay, adventure. I have adventure, and then I'm like, there. But I do have a making waves. So we could do both. We can totally do both. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you want to start? Should we start with adventure?
Yeah. Let's start with adventure.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, um, long ago and far away. I actually don't even remember how old I was. I was getting a divorce, and my first husband, because clearly I've had 20 of them. I haven't, don't forget. So, in Pennsylvania, the judge has a thing where they won't allow you to get divorced until you've been separated for a year, because you need to be sure that you want a divorce. Like, seriously, that's how this went down.
I don't like that.
So yeah, believe me. You know, I mean, I didn't even talk to my ex-husband during that period, so it was just weird. But anyway, so I was like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever you want, I don't care. So I was living in an apartment in Center City, Philadelphia, in like the Rittenhouse Square area, because growing up, that was my dream. I always wanted to live in Rittenhouse Square. And I went through this period where I was like, you know what? Because my ex-husband was hardcore Republican. He had very strict views on how things should be and how you should do things and all that kind of thing. And anyone who knows me, I'm like that. I am the polar opposite of that, right? Like, I am not, yeah. Like, as long as you don't hurt anybody, I don't care. You know, as long as your intentions are positive, it's all good, right? So, but I went through a period where I was like, well, I couldn't actually do all these things that I would normally do, because I'm very like, hey, yeah, sure, let's do it, right? Like, if someone tomorrow said, hey, Lisa, let's go to Hawaii, I would be like, dude, you've got a good deal, let's do it, right? Or let's go through the Congo, dude, you've got a good deal, let's do it, right? Like, so anyway, so I had this one, I did everything from like, I took classes on circus exercises, where they actually had you like do like fling around, like do those like air based exercises and stuff, which, by the way, was so fun. I only wish I could find that class again. But anyway, but I had always wanted to do skydiving. Always, always, always. And I found, of all things, Groupon. I found these Groupon deals on skydiving, and I was like, dude, I am on it. I am in it. We are skydiving. So the very first time I skydived, I had the Groupon. I went and I did it by myself. And what they do is you're partnered with someone who
Tandem.
actually is certified, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first time, I'm partnered with this guy, and we go, and I gotta tell you, like, I would seriously get certified in skydiving now. Like, it was that much fun, right? Well, so after I did it, then I told a bunch of friends of mine about it, and I was like, oh my God, if any of you want to do this, like, I am totally in, right? So one of my friends, she was like, holy shit, this sounds amazing. Okay, yes, let's do it. Well, the next time, so when you skydive, what they do, because you're partnering with someone, you're basically tied in with them, and they face you, and I think that's right. Anyway, but what I didn't think about this beforehand. I had a shirt that when they tied me in, it made my boobs kind of like do this, and it was like, and so this poor guy, like, we are skydiving, and he just keeps staring at my boobs, because it's like, you know, this is not the right shirt to tell the story in, but yeah. So anyway, so we go and we skydive, and we have this like amazing time or whatever. And my friend, she goes, because it was like dinner-ish time, right? So she asks the our instructors, like, hey, where's a good place to go to grab a bite? And they invite us to go with them. And the guy who was my partner was like, and I was just like, oh, okay. So I actually ended up, because I wasn't in a mental space yet to take on an additional partner, if you know what I mean, like partner.
Yeah.
So we basically went out to eat with like all of these instructors for skydiving, but we like stayed on like our end of the table like all night long. But like I still like forever, I can just see him looking like, okay, we're secure. And he just kept going like this. Cause yeah. And I was like, oh, this wasn't the smartest option for me, but oh well. But he was cute. So yeah.
At least there was that. It feels like just being tandem with someone is already intimate enough. Because
Oh my
like you're
God.
sharing that moment with somebody.
Skydiving in tandem, it is definitely intimate. And I don't know how to explain it. There's just, it's almost like you're sharing this energy and like, and you're so close. Yeah. Oh, you're 100%. You're
Yeah.
100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've never done sky. I want to do it. I want to do it. But I feel like the older I get, the more afraid I am. Because when I was like 19 or 20, I'm like, sure. But now that I've like been around and seen people like fall down the stairs and break every bone of their body, I'm like, maybe not skydiving.
Now, oh, all right. So the next time you're in town, we'll have to figure out like, is there a cool place?
Yeah.
Because I would totally do it with you. Mm-hmm.
And even in Puerto Vallarta, we have skydiving.
Oh, okay.
You just have to do it in the winter. Don't do it any other time because storms can happen
Oh,
and you don't want that. Nobody
got
wants that.
got it. Oh yeah, no. Okay, so we're totally doing it. We're figuring it out.
I am down. I am totally. Like even because like I watched as a kid that Wesley Snipes movie Drop Zone
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
about skydiving. So like as a kid, I was like, I want to do this. My mom was like, no. Like
Oh my God, that is so awesome. That's so now when we do this, we're gonna have to take like pictures and stuff, or like do like a quick TikTok, right? So to be like, no, for real, we actually did it, right?
yeah.
So
Oh
mhm,
my God. The
that would be
idea of
so
having
fun.
your phone out while you're falling through the sky.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, for real. For
I was
real.
on the Empire State Building and I saw someone's receipt of their ticket just fly off in the wind,
Oh
just
my
like
God.
off in New York land, way up in the sky, and was terrified.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I used to be more adventurous. I think okay. I think I'm still adventurous in different ways
Yeah.
because I think this is a good story for this. So I speak Dothraki, a language that was created for film and television for the Game of Thrones show.
You're certified. You're like,
Yeah, I'm totally certified. And
yeah.
like, so occasionally you get interviewed by academics. They're like, oh, we're studying linguistics for our PhD program. We just want to talk to you. And I'm like, yeah, I've done that. And then I get contacted by MIT and they're like, we want to fly you to Boston and we want you to go through like a solid day of brain scans to just study your brain and we'll pay for
Ew.
it.
Okay.
And I'm like, a free trip to anywhere? I don't like Boston. Like, it's not
Nah,
my,
it's tiny. It is
it's,
so tiny.
even in the summer, it's cold. And this was in November. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, whatever. It's a free trip. And I'm like, if it's free, it's me. I'm like, okay, put the electrodes into my brain. I don't care. You paid for me. I get to stay at a nice hotel. This is awesome. So
Game on. Totally. Right?
and like the crazy thing, so they were studying Dothraki speakers, Valerian speakers, Klingon speakers,
Okay.
Navi speakers from Avatar, and Esperanto speakers
Okay.
over the course of this whole weekend.
Mhm.
So I get in there. The first person I meet is this like wonderful old lady who's very aggressive. And she's like, like, my name is Samantha, but in Dothraki but in Klingon, it's and I'm like, okay. Like, I've been speaking and learning Dothraki mostly alone, so I get to feel like I'm somewhat normal. And then I meet other people who speak languages from film and television, and I'm like, whoa, they're not normal. Like, I'm not normal either because I also do this.
But not like that.
And she's like, where are you from? Where do you live? And I tell her I live in Mexico. And she's like, do you have cartel connections? Because I have some thoughts about how Klingons can get deep into the cartel. And like,
Oh my God.
and this is like 5 minutes into meeting this person. She's like, she had and this is apparently true. I'm betraying a lot, and I'm so sorry. But there is a school of thought within Klingon speakers
Okay.
that they just need to take over Earth.
Wait, what about some sound?
Some Klingon speakers want to get in positions of power all over the world to take over the world.
Okay.
All like 200 of them that exist. So like, good luck.
Wow. I
But they're
had no, I mean, I completely buy this, but like, I had no idea. Like, but like, why? Like,
because they're a warrior culture and they feel like they should be in power. And so
oh,
she's like, I want to be connected to the cartels so that I, as a Klingon speaker, can rise up in the ranks and exude power. And I was like, girl,
holy shit.
you're like 63. You're a white girl from Massachusetts.
Yeah, hell
You're
no.
trying to connect it to the Mexican drug cartel. Like,
What?
they're going to murder you.
Oh my God, that is fucking awesome.
They won't even think twice about it. They're just like, who is this non-serious person? Anyway, okay, so that was, and then I have to get dressed up in this like nurse's gown. I have to take off this piercing
Bummer.
and the jewelry that was in my ears at the time because you're going into an MRI. But first, they lay you down on a table, and they didn't explain really a lot of this. They showed us a video that was like, here's how to do an MRI scan. And it was all nice and it had upbeat music. And I was like, this is totally cool. But then I show up and they're like, you have to completely disrobe and put on other clothes. Like, you have to use the restroom. You need to have a full bowel movement. Like, yeah. And like the bathroom was like near the desk that they were checking everyone in. It was a closed door, but it was still it was an issue. Like,
Ew.
Yeah.
No,
like,
no, no.
Uncomfortable.
No.
So then you lay down on the MRI thing, and they're like, okay, you feel cool. We're going to put a pillow under your ankles so you're like comfortable. And then we're going to put your head into what they call the trap, which is not a fun thing to say to someone. We're going to put your head in the trap.
In a trap? Like, what the fuck is that? Oh my God. No.
And it's a whole metal contraption that keeps your head exactly where it is. Like, all up, and it presses against your face. And they're like, but if you look up, we have a bunch of mirrors so you can see some computer screens. You just have to look up. And that's where we're going to do all of our experiments. And so my head is in the trap, and I'm like down on the thing. And then we go into an MRI, and like I did have an MRI as a kid because I got sick one time. They had to do it. But I was like 10. So like the MRI was huge, but as like a late 30-year-old, the MRI is small. And when I'm like, I can't move. Like, I've never been this tightly enclosed in my life. And they're like, look up into the mirror. And unfortunately, the first thing I did was fall asleep. I was laying down horizontal. I had a pillow under my
Wow.
ankles, which is
Oh
how I
God.
normally sleep. So I was just like, they had to wake me up. They're like, please don't fall asleep. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Because they spent all this money to fly me from Mexico. And I'm like, okay, I got to stay awake.
That's awesome.
So we do the experiment. And the
Mhm.
experiment starts with first like a silent animation movie. And they're like, just watch it. Don't think too hard. We're just getting your baseline brain wave, brain activity stuff. So just watch it and just like pay attention.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, okay. Then the screen changes and they're like, we're going to show you a bunch of words in English. And all the words actually end up being a sentence. It's like, my brother John walked to the store and then came home, but it's one word at a time. So like
Okay.
you're like receiving it as information and it keeps getting more complicated, like more complicated sentences. And then it stops having grammar. So then it's just
Oh,
words that don't make sense. And you're just like watching it and they're like, just have whatever reaction that you have. But like, and it gets like totally nonsensical. And
okay.
then it stops even being legible words. It just starts being a string of letters that look like they might be a word, but are actually not a word. And you're like,
Okay. Huh?
what? And
Yeah.
like your brain is kind of broken.
Mm.
They do this for a long time, and in the middle of it, they'll flash a screen that's like, hit the button, because you have a joystick like right next to your hand. And so
Mm.
you hit the button when you're ready to hit the button. They time some things about it. Then you have to listen to people speak English in various distorted ways, like when you're searching for a radio station and you get
Uh-huh.
static.
Uh-huh.
And so you listen to it and it's clear, and then it becomes unclear, and then it becomes clear again, and then it becomes unclear. And then they do the same thing with the Dothraki.
Mhm.
And like I hear the Dothraki, I know the Dothraki, and then it gets all staticky, and I'm like, what? And like I reach out for the certain words I can hear, and like this whole, and then that's over. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna play a spatial reasoning game slash experiment. So you're gonna
Okay.
see a screen with like 16 squares in a square, and there's one square that is like in black, and that
Mhm.
square is gonna move, and you have to pay
Mhm.
attention to how it moves. Because
Mhm.
after a certain amount of slides, you're presented with options, and you need to be able to tell the trail of how it
Oh
moves.
God. No one could do this. Like, give me a break.
And so, no, it gets worse because I like you can kind of do it with one square that's
Yeah.
moving. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
I can pay attention. I can pay attention. And they're like, okay, now we're gonna have two moving squares. So you have to pay attention to two different things at the same time. And I was
Mm-mm.
like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then they're like, okay, now it's gonna be three different squares. And I'm like, the sweat starts like right here, but your head is in a trap.
Oh God.
Can't touch anything.
Oh my God. Fuck this, man. I would have been
And
like,
I'm
yo,
like,
game over. I'm good.
I
I'd
feel like
start bullshitting, like for real.
I was like, I have a bead of sweat that's bothering me. And they're like, we're so
Oh,
sorry, you're almost done. Can you just make it through? And I was like, I'll
hell no.
try. And like, I keep trying to play the game, and I'm like, y'all, this bead of sweat is really terrifying me. Like
Yeah,
it's
for
so
real.
larger than what it was.
Mm-mm. I give you credit just for doing it, man. Like that is some shit.
Adventure. I finally finish, and they take me out of the trap, and I
Mm.
like am rubbing my eyebrows. And, like obviously, I got the sweat drop right away, but I just won't stop.
Yeah, 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 totally, totally.
And they invite me there, like if you want. There's like a garden on campus. If you just want to walk and have some alone time, and I was like, I I need some time to process what happened to me.
Dude, that was a lot. Like that was some shit.
And then I ended up at a bar for lunch, And I like ordered some lunch, and I ordered a drink, and the guy was like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, I don't even know how to talk to you. Like, I just had my brain
Oh,
experimented on. Like, I'm doing okay.
yeah. Totally.
Like, I'm not great, but I'm not bad. But I'm like,
Oh,
I'm not in this state of mind. And
yeah,
like,
like this was just completely freaky. Like, yeah.
I just wanted him to ask one follow-up question because
Mm.
I was like, I'm okay. And he was like, sure. And then I was like, fuck, ask a follow-up question. I need to talk about this experience. He never did. And I just sat there and I had my lunch and I had my beer.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't think I'm ever the same again, having had my brain experimented on by MIT.
seriously. Did you ever see the old lady again? Really?
No, I saw her virtually. There was a
Oh,
virtual conference
okay.
of Dothraki, Valerian, Na'vi, and Klingon speakers.
Mhm.
Because this is the first time that all film and television franchise constructed language speakers were ever
Mm.
assembled. The first time ever in history.
Oh, wow.
And we had the best bar night out. We were bar hopping and we were being our crazy nerdy selves. And
That's awesome.
it was the thing that made all of it okay.
Oh my
And
God, that's
now we
awesome.
have yearly gatherings.
Yeah.
And we've spoken on some panels about
Oh
the
my
MIT
God.
experience.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's perfect. That is awesome. That is so awesome. Did they have you do anything else? Well, like, was it just the?
No, they show you your brain and they like give you a little like MPEG thing through email of like, this is what your brain looks like through an MRI, which is like
Weird,
nuts. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And because you can see your eyeball part of it, and you're like, oh, this is really gross. Uh, you're like, but that's definitely my face and cross section, and that's my brain, that's my cat.
Wow. Oh my God.
They explained the whole reason that they did everything in the study and what their findings were. And after 24 hours, they had some definite findings, which is that all of these languages, not every language made for film and television, but Dothraki, Valerian, Klingon, and Na'vi all meet the same synaptic responses that natural human languages make.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
identical. We are actually speaking a quote unquote real language.
Actually, that's kind of fabulous.
Yeah. And all I had to do was have my head in a trap for 2 hours in an MRI machine to confirm.
Oh, fuck that. I give you so much cred. Seriously, like I've had multiple MRIs. Um, but never were they like said you have to stay awake, like you have to whatever. Like I just basically I put myself in like a yoga kind of mentality so that I would stay awake and like I could like keep my breathing like consistent or whatever. And then they did whatever they needed to do, and then they would like take. But it was like the kind where you're like your full body goes into it, and it's like a human cannoli. It's as if you're like the inside of the cannoli, and yeah.
Yeah.
And I the one time I had to do it because they were like, you reach a certain age when you're a woman, and they're like, we need to see if you have breast cancer, and I'm like, do you have any reason? And they're like, we just need to do it. So they put me. This must be like my boob night. I don't know. Anyway, so they put me in it, and so I go through and I do this whole fucking thing, and I come out, and like when I go and I check with my doctor, he's like, these are some of the most dense breasts I've ever seen. I'm like, that's your feedback? Like I
Is that
don't
good?
have breast cancer. Yeah, I just have dense boobs, right? So I guess that means I'll be perky a long time. I have no idea. What?
Sure.
we like Perky, so, or we love Perky, so I'm like, sure. But it was just freaking weird. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had a what is it, an orthopedic surgeon who did an MRI on my spine, and then
Ooh.
afterwards, because I had was in a car accident, and
Mm.
we had to do it, and he was like, "I have to compliment you on the straightness of your spine." And I was like,
Oh.
no one has ever complimented me on the straightness of anything in my life.
Oh my God. That is fucking hilarious. I love that so much. Right? Yeah. No. Mm-mm. Nope.
It's all the MRIs are just weird, and the noise they make, and like
It's free. It's. I think it's the noise that makes it freaky. Like if it was just that you're in this like enclosed space, that's one thing. But like add in like the noise, it's like what is going on?
it's like this metallic like tapping, like almost like you feel like the whole machine could fall apart at any moment. But they're
Mm-hmm.
like, no, this is fine. And I'm like, okay, because my head is in like a cage of something that y'all call the trap. So like I don't know
Right?
this
Like
state.
you named it the trap, guys, and you want me to be comfortable with this? What the hell is that? Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Which is a testament to if you will pay for my airfare and my hotel, I will probably do quite a lot.
Yeah. And like, and if you give me a stipend, right, then like totally game on. Like, mm-hmm.
They did give us a stipend, and my hotel bar gave me a $50 beer tab the first night when
Oh
I
my
showed up
God.
because I told them what I was there for, and I was like, "I'm a research subject for MIT," and they're like, "That's so fascinating." And then I explained it, and and the lady like literally wrote and signed her name. It was like, "This guy gets a $50 bar tab."
Oh, I love her.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
and I was like, "I will be using this," and I did.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Totally. Oh my God. That was fabulous. I love that.
It was an adventure for sure. What do we think we have for making waves?
Okay. So making waves. And all right. So yeah. Okay. So I guess a little context. So both of my parents were like very hardcore Democrat, like revolution 100%, right? Everyone's equal. Screw the system. Screw, whatever. Blah blah blah. Like my mother, because my mother, when I was really little, she was a social worker and like ran like all these different like community programs, and my father was a radio personality, but he was, as he liked to put it, he was, one of his biggest gifts was his ability to get fired, because he wasn't very good at holding back his opinion. Like he pretty much almost always said his mind, and that wasn't why he had his first major firing. His first major firing was because when he was working at a big band station, he didn't realize the mic was on. He thought he had put it on mute, and he was looking over his notes. And he went, "Ah, fuck." And this was back in the, I want to say, 60s, maybe. So the owner of the station came running in, and he was like, "Do you understand what you just said?" And my dad just like looks at him and he was like, "Yeah." Like, "Well, so what?" And he like points, because at that time mics would have like the red or the yellow or green light. He points at the mic and it's green lit, and my dad's like, "Oh God damn it." So he literally got blackballed for years. And then we have, the time of the 90s and everything changes. But anyway, or 80s, actually, 80s, and everything changes. But anyway, so that's that's context, right? That's basically the environment I grew up in. So I very much in my teens had that kind of perspective. Not that I don't now, but I'm much more, I hope, aware of how things impact other people, and I try to respond to things in such a way that it's accomplishing whatever goal it is that we're after, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying whatever's in my head, because that's not healthy. Anyway, so I was on two shows. I was on Dance Party USA and Dancing on Air. And when I was on Dance Party USA, they had a deal with, oh my God, some magazine. I don't even remember what magazine it was, but some magazine. And this magazine, oh, Your Prom, that was it, Your Prom magazine. So Your Prom magazine picked, I don't know how many of us, right? And said, you know, I want them to be, we were all basically like the centerfolds. So they picked what kids they wanted to be in the magazine, and then paired us up, and then they made, excuse me, prom, like they made a prom dress for me, and like my partner, right, he got a suit, you know, whatever, right? So we all show up for this photo shoot. Now, so for, again, context, so you're legally speaking, you're not actually supposed to hire any teenagers without paying them. And neither Dance Party USA nor Dancing on Air would, like, they would have us sign contracts, and that was their way out of it, was the contract would have it state, like, you'll get paid $1, and then in the meantime, you're working like a 14-hour day on a Saturday, a 10-hour day on a Sunday, like 2 or 3 hours on 1 or 2 weekdays, right, to do all these tapings. And I have no idea what the fuck was going through my head, but we go for this photo shoot for Your Prom magazine, and I'm all like, I forgot my goddamn dollar. And somehow this started, like, all the other kids in the room were like, yeah, I never got paid either. Now, I need you to give me, again, context. I was on the show, I was on both shows for maybe like 3 years, if that. There were kids who they've been on for like 5-6 years. I mean, for real, they've been on a long time. They had never, ever gotten paid, right? And then there was something about like that time period. This was like the late 80s that, I mean, they just became very aware, like, oh, I'm not actually supposed to be doing all this work, because this is actually a lot of work for free.
Yeah.
Because they weren't just using us as dancers. At this point, especially we were called regulars, we were hosting the show.
And your personalities.
Exactly. We were actually personalities. Like, there were all kinds of movements. I mean, like, seriously, there's a whole ton of other stuff about this, right? So, well, this became such a thing that one of the executive producers, the owner of the show, told him, you need to go. He went to the bank and got a bunch of $1 bills and gave us each our dollar bill before we actually went into the photo shoots. And like, to this day, I'm like, that was so weird, but it's also kind of interesting because it's like they acknowledged, I mean, they could have gotten into some deep shit if they didn't minimally give us that dollar bill, right?
They only paid out $1 bill.
Only paid out $1 bill. And I mean, we did everything from hosting shows to being the sponsor for different products to like, we would act as like the the guest host. So like famous people would come on and they'd assign us to different talent so that we
Yeah.
would like show them around and everything. Oh yeah, and we did all this for free.
Yeah. That's
So
awful. I do have to say, and this is probably the first time this has ever happened, but I have to use the restroom real bad. So I'm going to go
no,
on mute and off camera, and I will be right back.
go run. Okay, so now guys, so I will tell you another really interesting story. So well, until Teehee comes back. So what I actually find really interesting is so many of us who were on Dance Party USA and on Dance on Air, we're still friends. We're all on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And there's just something that's unique about the experience of having been on live TV and having been considered, I guess you could say, like a talent at such a young age. Admittedly, we were all teenagers, but still, that we're all still friends. We all still talk to one another. We all still hang out. And admittedly, I mean, the whole reason I even was on the show was because my best friend growing up, Heather Henderson, who went on to the show, and her name was Baby Heather. I went on to hang out with her, so that's how I even got there. But anyway, so with that, all right, Teehee, you need to give it up, man.
Okay.
Making waves.
Making waves. Okay. Whew. Okay. I did figure this out, and this was also inspired by you talking about being a kid, because I was like, there's a couple of adult things, but like not like gross adult erotic, but just like things I don't want to be legally liable for. So I'll focus on a childhood story of making waves. When I was in middle school, in the 90s, I desegregated a school.
No way. Oh my God. Give
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. My mom had desegregated a school when she was in high school. And I knew about this. She would talk about this, blah, blah, blah. And so, like, I was like, oh, this is carrying on the family legacy. I was presented with this opportunity, and I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it. It was terrible. It was awful. I was subjected to like the metal wand, and no other student in my school was. I
Oh my
had
God.
random locker inspections, and I had this ever evolving dress code that no one else had to follow because they were worried about gang colors.
What?
This is Iowa. So they're like, you can't wear blue. That's a gang color. And I'm like, okay. So then I'll wear red. And they're like, that's a gang color. And I'm like, okay. I'll wear yellow. That's a gang color. And I'm like,
Oh my
I'll
God.
wear white. And they're like, that's a gang. And I'm like, what color can I wear? Like,
yeah.
You know, and like my shirts weren't even like message shirts. They were just like shirts, like button down, mostly plaid. Like anyway, so this is how I really made waves. This school, my family was living in Cedar Rapids at the time. This is a rural middle school. So most of the kids I went to school with for the year I was there were they grew up on farms. They lived on active farms. They're just like, all of that. And it's a rural school. They're not very resourced, which is still a problem. And I still support resourcing rural schools despite my bad experience there. So anyway, we're in a geography class. It is the year is important. It's like 1997.
Okay.
And the teacher pulls down the world map of all the different countries, and the USSR is there. And I'm like, the USSR doesn't exist. And he's like, but that's what the map says. And I'm like,
what?
But that map is old. And he was like, but your textbook says USSR. And then I flipped it open and I was like, this textbook was published in like 1976. Like it's 1997. And I'm like, I was like, I'm not an expert. Obviously, I'm a middle schooler, But I
Yeah.
remember as a kid seeing stuff on the news about how the USSR dissolved and it
Mm.
became Russia and several other countries.
Mhm.
And he was like, but that's not correct. That's not what the book says. And it's not what the map says. And I was like, this
No.
happened. But and like you're an adult. Don't you remember Russia and several other countries? Like,
Wow.
and he's like, "Oh, I don't know." And then I start talking to other kids, and I'm like, "Do y'all remember in elementary school seeing the news and how
Yeah.
like the Soviet Union collapsed? Like this happened in our lifetimes."
Yeah.
So then I get super in trouble.
Uh-oh. Oh boy.
I got suspended, and then I had like months of detention.
Wait,
And then
for telling the truth? Like,
for being factually correct.
wow. Holy shit.
Mostly for telling a teacher he was wrong. But I was like, but
But
he
he
was
was.
wrong.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And like, I think you should be able to tell a teacher when they're factually wrong
Mm-hmm.
because it's a fact. And I was like, and this was a thing. I was a small child when the Soviet Union broke up, but I remember television because I love television. And I
Yeah.
remember them talking about it on television that it's
Yeah.
not the Soviet Union, it's Russia and several other countries. I kept using that phrase. I'm like, it's Russia and several other countries.
Yeah.
And interestingly, as an adult, I've gone on to meet people who have been from various different parts of the former Soviet bloc, like people from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm so glad I repped y'all in Iowa in this rural farm middle school. Like, I'm really
Yeah.
glad. But then they told my mom that I got suspended and had all this attention, and they told her why because your son is asserting that the Soviet Union has collapsed. And my mom was like,
It
but it
did?
did. And they replied, but the textbooks say different. And she's like, but no, it happened. It happened in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
So
Oh
then,
my
and this
God.
is one of the things is I love my mom just in general, but I also love when my mom would have to show up to my school to defend me because
Mm.
she was like, if you've ever watched The L Word, like Jennifer Beals, Bette Porter, like my
Mm-hmm.
mom doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't use curse words. She
Mm-hmm.
uses like $6 words to make everyone feel inferior and just like goes in.
I love her. Oh my God. I love her.
She eviscerated everyone and she's like, we're the adults, this happened, we
Mm-hmm.
all witnessed it happen. Like,
What's your problem?
you
Yeah.
can't punish somebody for being factually correct. And
Yeah.
they're like, he was insubordinate to the teacher. She was like, the teacher was wrong, the teacher was factually and historically and factually inaccurate.
Yeah. And how did he not know this? Like, that's so fucking weird. It was everywhere.
It was
Everywhere. Like, oh my
we watched
God.
it happen. But
That's
they're like,
so
there's
weird.
rural farm communities in Iowa. They're like, the textbook says this, the map on the wall says this.
Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. Uh-uh.
Not at all. Not at
Oh
all.
my God, I love your mom so much. I like sincerely.
The best part was always the day after my mom came into school to shoo everyone out.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
show up and everyone's super nice to you. And then they're like, they're super
Right?
nice. And they're like, please tell your mom we were nice. Because they don't want her to come back.
That is fucking awesome. Holy shit. Oh my God, I love her.
Yeah. Man, I feel bad that I've never had kids because, like, the way in which I feel like it's ancestral. because like the
Mm,
way in which I would defend my child to a school
mhm,
administrator
mhm.
is like they should
It
all
would
be
be spot on.
thankful that I don't have kids.
Yeah, yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, yeah,
Because
100%.
I will go hard. In Davenport, not in Cedar Rapids, this principal, he was the first African American principal of an elementary school. And
Wow.
this kid kept bullying me by calling me the N-word and pushing me. And I kept like talking to teachers. All my teachers were white, they didn't do anything
Mhm,
about it. And then I
mhm.
finally pushed him back, and he ended up cracking his skull on like the pavement and bled out. He survived, but he
Oh
was in a
my.
wheelchair for a while. He eventually learned how to walk again. But
Oh my God.
yeah, it was a whole thing. And then I got in trouble, but I was like, I kept telling people this guy is harassing me. And the
Mhm.
black principal like tried to like expel me. And my mom showed up and like cut him down to, so how dare you, a black
Of all
school
people.
administrator, who this other black kid has complained about racism and you didn't do anything about it. One, you
Mm,
didn't do anything about it. So he had
mhm,
no other choice but to take it to his own hands. And when he
mhm,
harmed a white person, now he's in trouble. And my mom
mm.
was like, I'm
Nope.
sure the ACLU would love to hear about this. And she's like, I'm sure that my grandfather's best friend, Julian Bond, who founded the Southern Poverty Law Center, would love to hear about this. Like,
Damn. Damn.
I just dived in. And that family, because they were school administrators all throughout Davenport, so I kept having to deal with them.
Mhm.
They were so fucking terrified of our family.
That is awesome. Oh my God, that is so awesome.
And I'm like, you better be afraid. You better be
Hell yeah.
afraid. You do some
Bring it.
weird shit. And I'm like, oh, my mom is coming into school with me this morning to meet with you. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, I fucking love that so, so much. So much.
I did have this beautiful heart to heart with my mom where I told her that like that's how I learned about activism because I've been like a professional activist and
Mhm,
worked in the activist world my whole life. And I
mhm,
was like because my grandfather is a well-known activist in the
mhm,
civil rights movement.
mhm,
But I'm like, I didn't learn anything from him. Like I literally learned it from watching my mom stand up for me to school administrators. And I was like, that's how I learned how to talk to power and talk to
mm,
people in power and be unafraid and like
mm.
that's where it all came from.
Freaking bring it. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That was the perfect story to end our Storytellers Happy Hour on. Like, that was the shit. Like, for real. Ching ching. Absolutely.
Hell
So,
yeah.
oh my God. So that I just want to say thank you so much, Teehee. We always have a blast. This was fabulous. Like, this was amazingly fabulous.
It's always such a good time.
Totally. And for you guys who are watching, we're gonna be back next week. Just because I effed up. Like, seriously, I forgot like when we're gonna have what going on, and then I'm like, oh, whatever. But we're gonna be on this on the 22nd of November,
And I'm
and
so
there will be more.
easygoing. Whenever I get
Totally,
the calendar invite, I'm like, sure, yeah.
we just bring it, right? Because that's what we do. We just bring it. So love you, love everybody. And honestly, if you guys have any ideas like for us to do stuff, like put it in the freaking comments. Because we will
Yeah.
check it out and we will follow up because we're that kind of nerd balls. So
Yes.
anyway, all right. Love you guys. Love you. We will
Bye.
see you next week.